The clock strikes midnight, and the world outside fades into silence. Streetlights flicker, casting long, wavering shadows against the pavement. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howls, a lonely, mournful sound that disappears into the stillness of the night. This is the hour when the veil between worlds thins, the unseen stirs just beyond our reach, and the stories we whisper in the dark come to life. Welcome to Paranormal Nightshift, where the shadows tell their secrets and your chilling fan stories unravel like whispers carried on the wind. This is where reality blurs with the unexplained, where every creak in the floorboards and every flicker in the corner of your vision might be something or someone watching. I'm your host, Gideon, your guide through the eerie, the unexplainable, and the downright hair-raising. Tonight, we venture once again into the unknown, where the boundaries of fear are tested and the echoes of the past still linger. But before we plunge into the darkness, I have something for you, something you won't want to miss. Suppose you crave more than just eerie tales and spine-tingling encounters. In that case, you'll want to visit paranormalnightshift.com to claim your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado, the first ebook in our Dimensional Desperado series. Discover how Buck Shadow Sheriff Freeman began his journey into time-traveling paranormal adventures, chasing ghosts across history and uncovering the secrets that time tried to bury. With the veil lifted and the spirits waiting, it's time to return to the darkness. Tonight's tale, The Night the Darkness Answered, comes from one of our listeners, Mike. His experience will pull you deep into the unknown, where something far more sinister than a mere shadow awaits in the night. Are you ready? Let's begin. I was only 7, but I remember everything about that night, like yesterday. The scent of my grandmother's favorite lavender candles mingled with her small dining room's thick, musty air, the dim glow of a single oil lamp casting long, flickering shadows against the walls. She always preferred soft lighting when she worked, which helped her see between the veils better. My grandmother wasn't just anyone. She was a clairvoyant, a woman who could read tarot cards and star maps and tell a person the course of their life with a clarity that never failed to come true. People traveled far and wide to seek her counsel, and she never turned them away. But there was always a line she refused to cross, a warning she gave to anyone desperate enough to ignore it. The dead don't always answer, and when they do, it may not be the answer you want. That night, I sat cross-legged on the old braided rug near the table, silent, barely breathing, as she met with a client, whose name I still don't know. The woman had pleaded for my grandmother's help and begged her to make contact with someone she had lost. But I saw the hesitation in my grandmother's face. I heard the tightness in her voice when she told the woman, "There are no promises. You must understand that." But the client wouldn't be swayed. She was determined to use a Ouija board. I was fascinated, thrilled even. Ever since I was a kid, I had been drawn to the darker side of things, the unexplainable stuff that made other people nervous. But my grandmother, she was different. She believed in these things not as a curiosity, but as a reality that could be far more dangerous than people realized. As she sat across from her client, her fingers hovered reluctantly over the planchette. Before they started, she looked at the woman one last time and warned, "Demons look for opportunities like this." The client didn't listen. They both pressed their fingers against the planchette, and for the first 29 minutes, nothing happened. I could see the tension in my grandmother's jaw, the way her fingers twitched, the way she looked up toward the corners of the room, as if expecting something to lurk there. Then she finally muttered, "Sometimes spirits aren't strong enough to manipulate the board." The woman looked disappointed, but something in my grandmother's expression told me she wasn't. And then the planchette moved. I felt it instantly. The entire room changed. The air was thicker, heavy, like a storm was about to break, but no thunder would come. The hairs on my arms stood on end. My grandmother's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't stop. She asked the client to proceed with her questions. One by one, the woman whispered to them. One by one, the board answered. I didn't recognize the words. Some were in English, others in broken fragments that didn't make sense. But the woman, she believed. I saw the tears in her eyes, the way she choked up, thanking my grandmother for helping her. She was convinced it was her loved one answering, but my grandmother wasn't convinced. The answers came too quickly, too easily. As the minutes passed, her face became paler. I noticed how she gripped the table as if holding herself steady. Then suddenly, she sat up straighter and removed her hands from the board. "That's enough," she said firmly. The woman hesitated. She wasn't ready to stop. She wanted more. My grandmother ignored her protests. She knew better. She closed the session, moved the planchette to goodbye, and removed her hands. But then, before either of them could react, the planchette moved on its own. It slid slowly across the board, spelling out a word, one letter at a time. No! My grandmother froze. For the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. She reached for the planchette, and it jerked away. And then something came through the window. Not in the window, through it. A hand. It was like a shadow solidified into flesh, a grotesque, unnatural thing with elongated fingers and claws at the tips. I saw their gleam in the dim candlelight before it slashed across my grandmother's face. She let out a sharp cry, grabbing her cheek, blood seeping between her fingers. But she wasn't just in pain, she was furious. The air in the room thickened. The candle flames shuddered violently, as if unseen wind had blasted through the house. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would break my ribs. The woman screamed, knocking over her chair as she scrambled away from the table. But my grandmother didn't move. She stood her ground. Through clenched teeth, she hissed the words, "You are not welcome here." She raised her hands, still slick with her blood, and began to pray. Her voice shook the air. It wasn't just words. It was power. And whatever was in that room with us, it didn't like it. The hand twisted, writhing as if in agony before it, disappeared. The pressure in the room lifted instantly, the flames on the candles steadied, and the heaviness in my chest evaporated. It was over. But my grandmother, she wasn't relieved. She was angry. She turned to the woman and demanded, "Where did you get that board?" The woman, shaking, still gasping for breath, stammered, "In a wooden box, in the attic, when we moved in." I will never forget the way my grandmother's expression darkened. "Did you bring the box?" The woman shook her head. "No, I left it." That didn't comfort my grandmother, not one bit. Because it wasn't just a board, the woman admitted that the box it came from had strange symbols carved inside, symbols she didn't recognize. Sigils. My grandmother didn't say another word. She picked up the board, left the room, and later told me she tried to burn it. It wouldn't burn. I never found out what happened to that client, never learned her name, and never knew if she still had that board, or worse, if she ever tried to use it again. But I do know one thing. Whatever answered her that night, it wasn't her loved one. and I will never forget it. With that, we close the book on another chilling journey into the unknown. Mike, thank you for sharing your incredible experience. Stories like yours remind us just how thin the veil between worlds can be. One thing is certain, whether you believe or remain skeptical, some things simply refuse to stay in the past. If this episode left you watching your shadows a little more closely, why not take the adventure even further? Join us on Patreon for an ad-free experience and exclusive access to all future episodes of Dimensional Desperado, where Buck Shadow Sheriff Freeman takes on hauntings across history. So don't miss out. Not ready to join Patreon? No problem. You can still support the show by subscribing to Spotify and YouTube. While you're there, comment and let us know your thoughts on this episode. Your feedback fuels the show and keeps us bringing more stories from the shadows. And don't forget, your free copy of The Birth of Dimensional Desperado is waiting for you at paranormalnightshift.com. If you loved tonight's tale, this is your chance to dive even deeper into the wild, supernatural and time-twisting world of Buck Freeman. Finally, do you have a story to make our listeners' skin crawl? Have you ever felt something watching you in the dark? Heard whispers where there should be silence? We want to hear it. Submit your paranormal experiences at paranormalnightshift.com, and your story might be the next one we bring to life. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, some doors, once opened, are impossible to close. This is Gideon, signing off, until the next night shift begins.